All right, good evening, everybody, and all of those who are yet to attend. Maybe we'll see this on Facebook or in some other medium. We appreciate your attendance here, and we appreciate your interest in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the great histories of the incarnations of God and great personalities. So this is a story tonight, chapter 13, about the Lord of Heaven, King Indra, who is afflicted by sinful reaction. And just so you can recall, he had killed Vrtrasura, the great demon Vrtrasura, in the previous chapters. So now he has been chased by sin personified for killing a Brahmin. So he is fleeing. That's in the next chapters. We're going to talk about all that. But for tonight, we're going to read this chapter, and I'd like to start out by offering my pranams. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devim Gauravani Pritcharani Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschacharishtarani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shedvati Giradhar Shivasti Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, chapter 13, I'll start reading from the text. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 1. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, O King Pariksit, who are so charitably disposed, when Vrtrasura was killed, all the presiding deities and everyone else in the three planetary systems was immediately pleased and freed from trouble. Everyone, that is, except for Indra. Thereafter, the demigods, the great saintly persons, the inhabitants of Pitraloka and Bhutaloka, and the demons, the followers of the demigods, and Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the demigod subordinate to Indra, all returned to their respective homes. While departing, however, no one spoke to Indra. Now, I've had a cold, so if I lose it, I'm going to have to turn it over to somebody, okay? Maharaj Pariksit inquired from Sukadeva Goswami, O great sage, what was the reason for Indra's unhappiness? I wish to hear about this. When he killed Vrtrasura, all the demigods were extremely happy. Why then was Indra himself unhappy? Sri Sukadeva Goswami answered, when all the great sages and demigods were disturbed by the extraordinary power of Vrtrasura, they had assembled to ask Indra to kill him. Indra, however, being afraid of killing a Brahmana, declined their request. King Indra replied, when I killed Vishvarupa, I received extensive sinful reactions. But I was favored by the women, land, trees, and water, and therefore I was able to defy the sin amongst them. But now if I kill Vrtrasura, another Brahmana, how shall I free myself from the sinful reactions? Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, hearing this, the great sages replied to King Indra, O King of Heaven, all good fortune unto you. Do not fear. We shall perform an Ashvamedha sacrifice to release you from any sin you may accrue by killing the Brahmin. The rishis continued, O King Indra, by performing an Ashvamedha sacrifice and thereby pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Super Soul, Lord Narayana, the Supreme Controller, one can be relieved even of the sinful reactions for killing the entire world, not to speak of killing a demon like Vrtrasura. One who has killed a Brahmin, one who has killed a cow, or one who has killed his father, mother, or spiritual master can immediately be freed from all sinful reactions simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Narayana. Other sinful persons, such as dog eaters and chandalas, who are less than Sudras, can also be freed in this way. But you are a devotee, and we shall help you by performing the great horse sacrifice. If you please Lord Narayana in that way, why should you be afraid? We will be freed. You will be freed even if you kill the entire universe, including the Brahmanas, not to speak of killing a disturbing demon like Vrtrasura. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, encouraged by the words of the sages, Indra killed Vrtrasura. And when he was killed, the sinful reaction for killing a Brahmana, Brahmahatya, certainly took shelter of Indra. Following the advice of the demigods, Indra killed Vrtrasura, and he suffered because of the sinful killing. Although the other demigods were happy, he could not derive happiness from the killing of Vrtrasura. Indra's other good qualities, such as tolerance and opulence, could not help him in his grief. Indra saw a personified sinful reaction chasing him, appearing like a Chandala woman, a woman of the lowest class. She seemed very old, and all of the limbs of her body trembled. Because she was afflicted with tuberculosis, her body and garments were covered with blood. Breathing an unbearable fishy odor that polluted the entire street, she called out to Indra, "Wait, wait." O king, Indra first fled to the sky, but there also he saw the woman of personified sin chasing him. This witch followed him wherever he went. At last, he very quickly went to the northeast and entered the Mana Sarovara lake. Always thinking of how he could be relieved from this sinful killing of reaction for killing a Brahmana, King Indra, invisible to everyone, lived in the lake for 1,000 years in the subtle fibers of the stem of a lotus. The fire god used to bring him his share of all jagyas, sacrifices, but because the fire god was afraid to enter the water, Indra was practically starving. So somebody pick up there, text 16.
I can read.
Thank you.
Text 16. As long as King Indra lived in the water, wrapped in the stem of the lotus, Nahusha was equipped with the ability to rule the heavenly kingdom due to his knowledge, austerity, and mystic power. Nahusha, however, blinded and maddened by power and opulence, made undesirable proposals to Indra's wife with the desire to enjoy her. Thus, Nahusha was cursed by a Brahmin and later became a snake. Indra's sins were diminished by the influence of Rudra, the demigod of all directions. Because Indra was protected by the goddess of fortune, Lord Vishnu's wife, who resides in the lotus clusters of Manasa Sarovara lake, Indra's sins could not affect him. Indra was ultimately relieved of all the reactions of his sinful deeds by strictly worshipping Lord Vishnu. Then he was called back to the heavenly planets by the Brahmanas and reinstated in his position. O king, when Lord Indra reached the heavenly planets, the saintly Brahmanas approached him and properly initiated him into a horse sacrifice, Ashwamedha Yajna, meant to please the Supreme Lord. The horse sacrifice performed by the saintly Brahmanas relieved Indra of the reactions to all his sins because he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead in that sacrifice. O king, although he had committed a gravely sinful act, it was nullified at once by that sacrifice, just as fog is vanquished by the brilliant sunrise. King Indra was favored by Marichi and the other great sages. They performed the sacrifice just according to the rules and regulations, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul, the original person. Thus, Indra regained his exalted position and was again honored by everyone. In this very great narrative, there is glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. There are statements about the exaltedness of devotional service. There are descriptions of devotees like Indra and Vrtrasura. And there are statements about King Indra's release from sinful life and about his victory in fighting the demons. By understanding this incident, one is relieved of all sinful reactions. Therefore, the learned are always advised to read this narration. If one does so, one will become expert in the activities of the senses, his opulence will increase, and his reputation will become widespread. One will also be relieved of all sinful reactions. He will conquer all his enemies, and the duration of his life will increase. Because this narration is auspicious in all respects, learned scholars regularly hear and repeat it on every festival day. That was the end.
That is wonderful. So, because some of this narration about Vrtrasura continues on in the next chapter 14, King Citraketu's Lamentation, I think we are going to go ahead, since it's so early in the night, and read that chapter, because we do plan on reading at least 2 or 3 of these chapters regarding Citraketu, because it's an amazing story. It'll be a separate standalone story, but Krishna also comes in an incarnation and visits Citraketu. So naturally, it would be a story we would want to continue on reading. So, who would like to read this chapter 14, Citraketu's Lamentation, text 1? Who would like to pick up there? Start reading. Bhavananda, Seema, does anybody else like to read? We got
try to find it here.
Okay. Okay.
Nobody else wants to. I'll try.
You want to read a little bit? There's quite a few verses in this one. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, about 50.
So we're going to need some. We're going to need some other readers. Yeah, we got about 50 something here. That's a big chapter. Wow, look at that. 61.
61. You're biting off a lot.
We're taking up quite a juggy here. So let's get some other readers ready, okay? And you go ahead and continue to read then, if you would.
Text 1. King Prakshit inquired from Sukadeva Goswami, O learned Brahmin, demons are generally sinful, being obsessed with the modes of passion and ignorance. How then could Vrtrasura have attained such an exalted love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana? Demons situated in the mode of goodness and great saints cleansed of the dirt of material enjoyment hardly ever render pure devotional service at the lotus feet of Mukunda. Therefore, how could Vrtrasura have become such a great devotee? In this material world, there are many living entities. There are as many living entities as atoms. Among these living entities, a very few are human beings, and among them, few are interested in following religious principles. O best of the Brahmanas, Sukadeva Goswami, out of many persons who follow religious principles, only a few desire liberation from the material world. Among many thousands who desire liberation, one may actually achieve liberation. Giving up material attachment to society, friendship, love, country, home, wife, and children. And among many thousands of such liberated persons, one can understand the true meaning of liberation is very rare. O great sage, among many millions who are liberated and perfect in knowledge of liberation, one may be a devotee of Lord Narayana or Krishna. Such devotees who are fully peaceful are extremely rare. Vrtrasura was situated in the blazing fire of battle and was an infamous sinful demon, always engaged in giving troubles and anxieties to others. How could such a demon become so greatly Krishna conscious? My dear Lord, Sukadeva Goswami, although Vrtrasura was a sinful devotee, he showed the prowess of a most exalted Kshatriya and satisfied Lord Indra in battle. How could such a demon be a great devotee of Lord Krishna? These contradictions have caused me great doubt, and they have made me eager to hear this from you. Sukadeva Goswami said, after hearing Maharaj Parikshit's very intelligent question, Sukadeva Goswami, the most powerful sage, began answering his disciple with great affection. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, I shall speak to you the same history I have heard from the mouths of Vasudeva, Narada, and Devala. Please listen with attention. O King Parikshit, is that right?
Parikshit. It's actually Parikshit. Parikshit. That's it.
In the province of
Surasena?
Surasena, there was a king named
Citraketu.
Citraketu, who ruled the entire earth. During his reign, the earth produced all the necessities of life. This
Citraketu.
Citraketu had 10 million wives, but although he was capable of producing children, he did not receive a child from any of them. By chance, all the wives were barren. Citraketu, the husband of these millions of wives, was endowed with a beautiful form, magnanimity, and youth. He was born in a high family. He had a complete education, and he was wealthy and opulent. Nevertheless, in spite of being endowed with all these assets, he was full of anxiety because he did not have a son. His queens all had beautiful faces, attractive eyes, yet neither of his opulences, his hundreds and thousands of queens, nor the lands of which he was a supreme proprietor, were sources of happiness for him. Citraketu immediately stood up. I skipped on. Once upon a time, when the powerful sage named
Angira.
Angira was traveling all over the universe without engagements, by his sweet will, he came upon the palace of King Citraketu.
Citraketu.
Citraketu immediately stood up from his throne and offered him worship. He offered drinking water and edibles, and in this way performed his duty as a host to a great guest. When the rishi was seated very comfortably, the king, restraining his mind and senses, sat on the ground at the side of the rishi's feet. I better stop there.
Okay. All right. So who we got? We got anybody on your side over there? Ramaragava Prabhuji? Who
I
else?
can I
Yeah.
can read.
Oh, please read, Seema. Please.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. O King Parikshit, when Citraketu bent low in humility, was seated at the lotus feet of the great sage, the sage congratulated him for his humility and hospitality. The sage addressed him in the following words. The great sage Angira said, My Lord King, I hope that your body and mind and your royal associates and paraphernalia are well. When the seven properties of material nature, the total in material energy, the ego, and the five objects of sense gratification are in proper order, the living entity within the material elements is happy. Without these seven elements, one cannot exist. Similarly, a king is always protected by seven elements. His instructor, Swami or Guru, his ministers, his kingdom, his fort, his treasury, his royal order, and his friends. O King, O Lord of humanity, when a king directly depends upon his associates and follows their instructions, he is happy. Similarly, when his associates offer their gifts and activities to the king and follow his orders, they are also happy. O King, all your wives, citizens, secretaries, and servants, and the merchants who sell spices and oil under your control. Are you also in full control of ministers, the inhabitants of your palace, your provincial governors, your sons, and your other dependents? If the king's mind is fully controlled, all his family members and governmental officers are subordinate to him. His provincial governors present taxes on time without resistance and what to speak of lesser servants. O King Citraketu, I can observe that your mind is not pleased. You seem not to have achieved your desired goal. Is this because of you yourself, or has it been caused by others? Your pale face reflects your deep anxiety. Sukadev Goswami said, O King Parikshit, although the great sage Angira knew everything, he inquired from the king in this way. Thus King Citraketu, desiring his son, bent low in great humility and spoke to the great sage as follows. King Citraketu said, O great Lord Angira, because of austerity, knowledge, and transcendental samadhi, you are freed from all the reactions of sinful life. Therefore, as a perfect yogi, you can understand everything external and internal regarding embodied, conditioned souls like us. O great soul, you are aware of everything, yet you are asking me why I am full of anxiety. Therefore, in response to your order, let me disclose the cause. As a person aggrieved by hunger and thirst is not pleased by the external gratification of flower garlands or sandalwood pulp, I am not pleased with my empire, opulence, or possessions, which are desirable even for great demigods, because I have no son. Therefore, O great sage, please save me and my forefathers, who are descending to the darkness of hell, because I have no progeny. Kindly do something so that I may have a son to deliver us from hellish conditions. In response to the request of Maharaja Citraketu, Angira Rishi, who was born of Lord Brahma's mind, was very merciful toward him. Because the sage was greatly powerful personality, he performed sacrifice by offering oblations of sweet rice to Twashta. O Parikshit Maharaj, best of the Bharatas, the remnants of the food offered in the yagna were given by the great sage Angira to the first and most perfect among Citraketu's millions of queens, whose name was Katradyuti. Therefore, the great sage told the king, O great king, now you will have a son who will be the cause of both jubilation and lamentation. The sage then left without waiting for Citraketu's response. As Kritika Devi, after receiving the semen of Lord Shiva from Agni, conceived a child named Skanda Kartikeya, Kardayuti, having received semen from Citraketu, became pregnant after eating remnants food from the yagna performed by Angira. Can somebody read now, or you want me to continue?
No, if somebody else would like to read, yes, very nice reading, though. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
There's about another 30 verses, if somebody would like to get some more. Anybody else who hasn't read would like to read? Maybe I'll read a few, and then how about you, Rama Raghava? You want to read a few more after me? Okay. So
Sure.
after receiving semen from Maharaj Citraketu, the king of Surasena, Queen Kritadyuti gradually developed in her pregnancy, O King Parikshit, just as the moon develops during the bright fortnight. Thereafter, in due course of time, a son was born to the king. Hearing news of this, all the inhabitants of the state of Surasena were extremely pleased. King Citraketu was especially pleased. After purifying himself by bathing and by decorating himself with ornaments, he engaged learning Brahmins in offering benedictions to the child and performing the birth ceremony. And to the Brahmins who took part in the ritualistic ceremony, the king gave charity of gold, silver, garments, ornaments, villages, horses, elephants, as well as 60 crores of cows. That's 600 million cows. Try to imagine the opulence is unlimited in this universe, even in the material universe. So as the cloud indiscriminately pours water on the earth, the beneficent King Citraketu, to increase the reputation, opulence, and longevity of his son, distributed like rainfall all desirable things to everyone. When a poor man gets some money after great difficulty, his affection for the money increases daily. Similarly, when King Citraketu, after great difficulty, received a son, his affection for the son increased day after day. The mother's attraction and attention to the son, like that of the child's father, excessively increased. The other wives, seeing Citrakethu's son, were very much agitated, as if by high fevers with a desire to have sons. As King Citraketu fostered his son very carefully, his affection for Queen Citrakethu increased, but gradually he lost affection for the other wives who had no sons. The other queens were extremely unhappy due to their being sonless. Because of the king's negligence towards them, they condemned themselves in envy and lamented. A wife who has no sons is neglected at home by her husband and dishonored by her co-wives, exactly like a maidservant. Certainly such a woman is condemned in every respect because of her sinful life. Even maidens who are constantly engaged in rendering service to the husband are honored by the husband, and thus they have nothing for which to lament. Our positions, however, is that we are maidservants of the maidservant. Therefore, we are the most unfortunate. So, you want to read some there? Ram Raghav?
Okay.
42.
Text 42?
Yep.
Okay. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, being neglected by their husband and seeing Citrakethu's opulence in possessing a son, Citrakethu's co-wives always burned in envy, which became extremely strong. As their envy increased, they lost their intelligence. Being extremely hard-hearted and unable to tolerate the king's neglect, they finally administered poison to the son. Unaware of the poison administered by her co-wives, Queen Citrakethu walked within the house, thinking that her son was sleeping deeply. She did not understand that he was dead. Thinking that her child had been sleeping for a long time, Queen Citrakethu, who was certainly very intelligent, ordered the nurse, "My dear friend, please bring my son here." When the maidservant approached the child who was lying down, she saw that his eyes were turned upward. There were no signs of life, all his senses having stopped, and she could understand that the child was dead. Seeing this, she immediately cried, "Now I am doomed," and fell to the ground. In great agitation, the maidservant struck her breast with both hands and cried loudly in regretful words. Hearing her loud voice, the queen immediately came, and when she approached her son, she saw that he was suddenly dead. In great lamentation, her hair and dress in disarray, the queen fell to the ground unconscious. O King Parikshit, hearing the loud crying, all the inhabitants of the palace came, both men and women. Being equally aggrieved, they also began to cry. The queens who had administered the poison also cried pretentiously, knowing full well their offense. When King Citraketu heard of his son's death from unknown causes, he became almost blind. Because of his great affection for his son, his lamentation grew like a blazing fire, and as he went to see the dead child, he kept slipping and falling on the ground. Surrounded by his ministers and other officers, and the learned Brahmanas present, the king approached and fell unconscious at the child's feet, his hair and dress scattered. When the king, breathing heavily, regained consciousness, his eyes were tearful, and he could not speak. When the queen saw her husband, King Citraketu, merged in great lamentation and saw the dead child, who was the only son in the family, she lamented in various ways. This increased the pain in the cores of the hearts of all the inhabitants of the palace, the ministers, and all the brahmanas. The garland of flowers decorating the queen's head fell, and her hair scattered. Falling tears melted the collyrium on her eyes and moistened her breasts, which were covered with kumkum powder. As she lamented the loss of her son, her loud crying resembled the sweet sound of a kurari bird. Alas, O Providence, O Creator, you are certainly inexperienced in creation, for during the lifetime of a father, you have caused the death of his son, thus acting in opposition to your creative laws. If you are determined to contradict these laws, you are certainly the enemy of living entities and are never merciful. My Lord, you may say that there is no law that a father must die in the lifetime of his son, and that a son must be born in the lifetime of his father, since everyone lives and dies according to his own fruitive activity. However, if fruitive activity is so strong that birth and death depend upon it, there is no need of a controller or God. Again, if you say that a controller is needed because the material energy does not have the power to act, one may answer that if the bonds of affection you have created are disturbed by fruitive action, no one will raise children with affection. Instead, everyone will cruelly neglect his children. Since you have cut the bonds of affection that compel a parent to raise his child, you appear inexperienced and unintelligent. Should I leave for somebody else or?
Well, there's only let's see we got a few more. It's about 5 more. You can finish.
Okay. My dear son, I am helpless and very much aggrieved. You should not give up my company. Just look at your lamenting father. We are helpless because without a son, we shall have to suffer the distress of going to the darkest hellish regions. You are the only hope by which we can get out of these dark regions. Therefore, I request you not to go any further with the merciless Yama. I think Viprahita Prabhu was thinking about reading.
That'd be fine.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay. Oh, there you go.
There you
go. Text, what text are we on?
57.
57. My dear son, you have slept a long time. Now please get up. Your playmates are calling you to play. Since you must be very hungry, please get up and suck my breast and dissipate our lamentation. My dear son, I am certainly most unfortunate, for I can no longer see your mild smiling. You have closed your eyes forever. I therefore conclude that you have been taken from this planet to another from which you will not return. My dear son, I can no longer hear your pleasing voice. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, accompanied by his wife, who was thus lamenting for her dead son, King Citraketu began crying loudly with an open mouth, being greatly aggrieved. As the king and the queen lamented, all their male and female followers joined them in crying. Because of this sudden accident, all the citizens of the kingdom were almost unconscious. When the great sage Angira understood that the king was almost dead in an ocean of lamentation, he went there with Narada Rishi.
Very, very good. Thank you. So this is an amazing story. This is one of the best stories in the whole Srimad Bhagavatam in my mind, and it's going to expand in these next chapters, and we're going to get to see what material attachment looks like and what transcendental understanding looks like in contrast. We're getting ready to see it in a very, very profound way. So you hear on this last verse that Angira, of course, Angira was a tree Kalagyani. He knew the past, the present, the future, just like Narada. And so he had realized, now you remember in the other chapter, that as soon as he gave the boon to the king for a son, he immediately left. He didn't stick around to talk about it. He left before any further interaction could be done. And he said, you will achieve the greatest happiness and the greatest misery as well. So now that he understands that this King Citraketu was almost dead in an ocean of lamentation, he went and got his buddy Narada Muni, and they came to the site. Angira and Narada came to the site to visit the king in this pitiable condition. So I don't want to give away what the next story is. I want to tell you, but I'm not going to because I'm going to make you wait. Okay, because it's such a good story. We need to wait and get the punchline coming up. But it is an amazing, amazing story. Now, we remember in some previous chapters that who was it that was asking for a son? And he went and then he apologized. Oh, no, he was wanting the Supreme Personality of Godhead to come down as his son. Remember? In the previous chapters. So the king was praying for a son, but when the Lord came to grant, he said, we apologize for asking for something material. He told him, we apologize. The Brahmins all said, we apologize. We brought you down here to give us something material in the material world, thinking that it will make us happy. So if you remember that from the previous chapters, this is where we are again, but now we're getting ready to see what happens to King Citraketu. So I want to stop and ask, are there any questions about this chapter that anybody has in particular? Because there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about, if that's okay. Any point did you like to make, Rama Raghava Prabhuji? Anything you can think of that you need to bring out about these stories?
Oh, just a question for you to comment on, please. So when we read that all the sins can be exonerated or forgiven by certain processes, what is to stop people from committing sins on the strength
of
of
the holy name?
Yeah, exactly.
You just said it. You revealed the truth. One of the 10 offenses is to commit offenses on the strength of the holy name. So, you know, the idea is that you think that you can premeditate the murder of a Brahmin, for an example, and just think that as soon as I kill him, I'll just chant Narayan's name, or I'll go do a Ashvamedha sacrifice or something like that. That is a heinous sin, and actually it doesn't produce the same results. You did this sin not as an accident, not as a mistake, not in neglect, not in illusion, right? Because Krishna talks about that in the Bhagavad Gita. He said maybe you commit a sin because you're in illusion, or maybe you made a mistake, or maybe it was just an accident. Well, those things are forgivable. But to sit and to premeditate some heinous act like that and then perform the act on thinking that you can just take God and just use him like a scrub brush, right? Well, this is what most people are doing with God anyway, though. Unfortunately, they're going to God because they're telling God what they want for dinner. You know, it's literally they think that God is their maidservant, or that they're their valet service or something like that. And if God doesn't produce exactly what they've demanded from him, they don't see any use in God. So this is the cause of atheism. This is the cause of people falling down, by having a complete misunderstanding about what is right and what is wrong, what is appropriate behavior, and what is Maya or illusion. So fortunately, we have those 10 offenses against the holy names. And we know that if we go about committing sins on the strength of the name of God, that is an actual worse sin than the one itself. So here it says, though, that Indra was such a pious devotee of the Lord that he was, even though the Brahmin said, no, don't worry about it. Go ahead and chop him up, kill him, do whatever you need to do. We're going to do an Ashwamedha sacrifice. It's going to be fine. You're going to be relieved of all sin. You don't have to worry about it. But Indra was so pious that he felt the shame, and he saw sin personified chasing him all over the universe. As this old witch who had tuberculosis, coughing blood, she was covered in blood, this foul stench. Indra's being running everywhere he goes, she's there. Finally, he enters the lake Manasarovara, and he goes into the stem of a lotus flower to hide from her for 1,000 years. Wow. Because he felt that sin upon him, he felt like he needed to perform some austerity and some penance. So when a devotee does something wrong, they try to make up for it with the Lord. They're not out to take advantage of the Lord. They're not out to use the Lord in a business arrangement or for money or for some kind of artificial forgiveness. They're willing to take their own karma on their own head. Prabhupada said like that, for the quarries of life's repeated births and deaths that I have, let me suffer. But let me not forget my devotional service to you. Let me not forget you. Let me not forget your lotus feet. Let me not forget my relationship with you. So this is Bhagavad Dharma. Bhagavad Dharma is what's being preached in the Bhagavad Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Dharma means that we must, by all means, gain love of Godhead. By all means, we must gain love of Godhead. And why is it so important? Because that's the actual connection the soul has to life itself. The very life of the soul is coming from Krishna. He is the life of our soul. Krishna, we are an expansion of his life. And as a matter of fact, today is Lord Balaram's appearance day, very auspicious day. Had a very nice day today. And Lord Balaram is the first guru. He's the first expansion. He's the energy of God, of Krishna. Krishna is the energetic. Balaram is the energy. So Balaram creates everything. Whatever Krishna is desiring that Krishna needs to be able to serve, to enjoy, Balaram is doing that so he can serve. Just like Radharani. That's what they're doing. Their whole job is to facilitate the pleasure of the Lord. And if we look at the life of Balaram and Krishna in Vrindavan, we can see as cowherd boys, they were having a big time. And many times Balaram would massage Krishna's feet. They would play games, unlimited games. And in one game, Balaram actually killed Pralambasura. Remember that game where they were carrying each other on the back? Whoever would lose would have to carry the other one on the back. And so Krishna's team was losing, and they were carrying all these devotees. But this demon had manifest as a cowherd boy in the group. And when time came for Balaram to be carried, he got Balaram on his back and was carrying Balaram off to kidnap him. And Balaram literally just smashed his brains out, and he fell down. He fell down to the ground. Everybody was like, excellent, excellent, great work. They're laughing, having a big time while all this is going on. So Balaram's today, appearance day, very, very auspicious day in service. He shows how we can serve the Lord. He shows how we can serve Krishna. He's the best servant. He is the guru of the entire universe, literally. So, and appears as Lord Nityananda, the most merciful, exuding causeless mercy. He also appeared as Lakshman in the pastime of Lord Ramchandra. We know that story in the Ramayana. So he is ever present as the energy of Krishna. And in that situation, Lord Balaram teaches us the correct example. So Yes, you can be relieved by simply calling out the name of Narayana. All sins, even the killing of all of the Brahmins in the entire universe. There's another verse that we see just from circumambulating Tulsi Devi, right? What is that verse? Do we know that verse? Say it. Click it on.
Yani kani chapapani brahma
Pani
hatya
Brahma
dikani
Hatya
cha
Dikani
tani tani pranashanti pradakshina pade pade.
But hey, that's right. By circumambulating Tulsi, which is so dear to Krishna, even the killing of a Brahmana can be Brahma Hatcharikani Cha, can be forgiven. So these names of God, these are not impotent names. We know that God has invested all of his potencies in these names. And that simply by chanting the holy names of God, Prabhupada actually, I was just hearing a lecture from Srila Prabhupada, and he says, the tongue alone can deliver us back to the spiritual sky. Just the tongue in and of itself can deliver one back home, back to Godhead. How is that possible? Because by chanting the holy names of the Lord, one is forgiven of all sinful reactions. That's number one. And by tasting Krishna Prasadam only, by doing those two activities, Prabhupada said one is liberated from the material universe. One is liberated. So your whole life, don't put anything in your mouth that's not been offered to the Lord. Don't put anything in your mouth that the Lord hasn't asked for. We want to put all these abominations, abominable things in our mouths for sense gratification. But the Lord says, Patram pushpam palam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati. So offer me with love and devotion, leaf, flower, fruit, and water, I'll accept. If he asked for something else, we would also offer that, but he's not. So those two things can liberate us back home, back to Godhead. And we just heard in the story of Ajamil, excuse me, we just heard in the story of Ajamil that even by neglectfully, inattentively, and even unconsciously chanting the name of God, Narayana, one can be delivered back home, back to Godhead, even if he's a sinful rascal like Ajamil was. So if we read that story, we can see that the chanting of the holy name actually frees one from all sinful reactions, killing a woman, a cow, a Brahmin, no matter what it is. So the demigods advised Indra to perform the Ashvamedha sacrifice, and by doing so, Narayan would be pleased. And as a result, the performer of such a sacrifice is not implicated in sinful reaction, even if he kills the entire universe. That's potent. That's a very potent statement about the name of God. So after, originally hearing these instructions, King Indra was enlivened. He had the Narayana Kavacha shield protecting him. He had the thunderbolt created from the bones of Vrtrasura. He knew that he was protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was favored by Lakshmi. He had everything going for him now to fight Vrtrasura and take his life. He was equipped to do so. But even if a great personality acquires some opulence, he's always ashamed and regretful if he acquires it illegally. So Indra could understand that he was certainly entangled by sinful reactions for killing the Brahmin. He could understand that. And he saw sinful reaction following him. He hid in the lake. And during this time, interesting, man, listen to this for a second, guys. We always wanted to go to heaven, but boy, heaven sounds like a pretty intriguing place. Because during the time that Indra was gone for that 1,000 years, he was meditating on for 1,000 years. During this time, Nahusha reigned over the heavenly planets. And he was a representative of Indra. But he may not have been qualified, even though he had the mystic potencies to be able to do these various things like Indra did. He did not, maybe not have the moral turpitude because he, unfortunately, was attracted by the beauty of Indra's wife, Sachi Devi. And Sachi Devi, very beautiful, he had a sinful desire to enjoy her. And as a result, later, he was forced to accept the body of a serpent. This sounds a lot like story in the Bible, doesn't it? I mean, in some ways, you take the bite of the apple and you're going to be turned into a serpent in some way. So this is what happened. He took the body of a serpent in his next life because he lusted after Indra's wife. But Indra later performed great sacrifice with the help of the exalted Brahmanas and the saints. In this way, he was relieved by the Ashvamedha sacrifice, and then he was free from all those sinful reactions. So, because this narrative has certain features about it that are very important because they glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Narayan, there are statements in here about the exaltedness of devotional service, descriptions of devotees like King Indra and Vrtrasura. By the way, Vrtrasura was a great demon, but he was also a great devotee. He loved Krishna. So there are statements about King Indra's release from sinful life after his victory in fighting the demons. And because this incident is revealing of how powerful all these things can, related to the Lord are. And therefore, by understanding the incident, one is just simply by understanding this incident of Indra's killing of Vrtrasura and the drama that followed, one can be relieved of all sinful reactions. We've got every way under the sun here to relieve ourselves of sinful reactions. God has given us 9 devotional processes. He's given all of his power in the holy names of God. He's come here as incarnations 20, 30 times. He's the monarch in all species. He's spoken Bhagavad Gita directly to Arjuna so you can hear every word that he said. His activities in the Puranas are unlimited adventures, incredible adventures that anybody can listen to and avail themselves are. And by hearing narrations, even of his devotees like Indra, who were engaged in these activities, because it glorified Lord Vishnu, who gave the Narayan Kavacha shield, right? Because it glorified the Lord, anything connected to Krishna and Narayan creates a sinless environment, an environment free from all sin, because wherever there's light, there can be no darkness. So you bring the light in, where's the darkness? It's gone. There's no more darkness. Everything is illuminated. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya. The spiritual master brings torch of light of knowledge. Now our illusion is dispelled. Now our ignorance is quelled, right? So if one simply listens to this narration or reads it, especially on festival days, that one will increase the activities of his opulence. Not that pure devotees don't care for opulence unless it can be used in Krishna's service. Everything they see is something they can use for Krishna. Oh, let me give that to Krishna. Just like they walk by a flower bed, they go, oh, that flower would be so nice on the altar. Let me get this flower. Just like little bumblebees, So, but if one hears this story, his opulence will increase, his reputation will become widespread. So you better watch out, Rama Raghavan. You might get a widespread reputation just by hearing this story. But it'll be a good one. So don't worry about that. And you're relieved of all sinful reactions, not that you guys would have any. But you will conquer all your enemies. Now, our enemies are people who are simply not loving Krishna. We want them to love Krishna. So if we conquer all of our enemies, everybody's going to love Krishna because that's our goal. We want to conquer them with a holy name, not with a sword. So the duration of life will increase because this narration is auspicious in all respects. Therefore, throughout all history, all learned scholars have repeated this narration, especially on festival days. So very, very important that we think like that. So in the next chapter, when we think about the next chapter, Citraketu was lamenting because he wanted something in the material world that he did not have. Now, for a king, especially who's got 100 million wives or whatever, not to have a son, you can only imagine what that must be like, because he wants to pass this kingdom on down. That's what kings do. They keep a lineage, a dynasty in the material world. And it goes on and on and on. That's how the earth is named after Bharat, who was such a great king. The whole world is named after him. So in the same way, Citraketu wanted that, but he realized that in the Vedic culture, the son delivers the father because he offers a sacrifice on behalf of the father. So if the father is lost in a hellish condition, that sacrifice can deliver the father from a hellish condition. There's stories in the Ekadasi Vrata stories that you can read how fathers were delivered by their sons who offered oblations on behalf of their father. So this is a big deal throughout all history, that sons have to offer that particular homage and sacrifice on behalf of their parents for this service that they've offered them. So he was lamenting that he couldn't do that. And he was suffering because he couldn't do that. And so he approached Angira for the son. Angira blessed him with the son, but without saying anything further, he left. And then this drama ensued. Okay. So in part of this chapter, especially in the beginning of this next chapter, it talks about how among many million of men, right, human beings, very small number out of all these trillions. By the way, there's as many living entities as there are atoms in the universe. This was mentioned in a previous chapter. There are as many living entities as there are atoms. So we can only imagine, like just in this one space of my hand, cupping in my hand, there must be billions of atoms right here in my hand. So how powerful is our situation? How amazing is our situation when we think that we have a body that's created in the image of Krishna, threefold bending form of Shama Sundara? Come on. We're not even Narayan forms with the forearms. We're two hands. So in this situation, we're living in a very intimate closeness with God on the earth planet. And our every action is creating our next body, or not. Or not. If you have a material desire, those material desires are literally creating your next body. And you will achieve your next body based on those material desires. Right? But if you do everything in the service of Krishna, there is no material desire. You get your Swarup Siddhi, you get your original spiritual body, Satchidananda Vigraha. You go back home to be with Krishna in that situation. So out of many, many millions of living entities, only a very small few of them are human beings. And out of all the human beings, only just a very few are actually even religious. They don't care. They don't care about religion. Very few. So, and out of all the people who are desirous of relief from this material misery and stuff, there are very few that are even have the association of a devotee. Most of them have contaminated association with unwanted persons. And even if you're a liberated personality, out of many millions of liberated persons, one only may become a devotee of Lord Narayan. There's such devotees, therefore they're very, very, very rare. Very, very rare that we have this opportunity. And so we should be very, very pleased that somehow or another the pure devotee has come in our lifetime and given us this liberating information about how to go back home, back to Godhead, how to end birth, death, old age, and disease, the wheel of samsara, permanently. Prabhupada brought us a cure for death. He brought us a cure for separation from Krishna. And we can be reconnected in this bhakti yoga, this love of God, and we must get it by all means. So we can get distracted. We can want other things in the world. Anything you desire in the material world for yourself will cause you maybe happiness, but will also cause you great lamentation. So Citraketu's life is the perfect example of someone who wanted something in the material world, right? And we can see the results of the activity of wanting something in the material world. Normally, wanting something in the material world indicates the mode of passion, rajas, because there are unlimited desires, unfulfilled desires in the mode of passion. And so those unlimited desires that we have are our ropes around our neck. They're our noose. We hang ourselves with those desires. We're in a tree, like in a labyrinth. You know, there's this beautiful picture in Bhagavad Gita. You know this picture, Ram Raga? You know what I'm talking about? He's hung up in this tree. He can't find out what's up and down. He's in a labyrinth. He can't get out. He's entangled. He's choking by the vines. So he's got to cut this tree with a sword of knowledge and free himself from this illusion of the three modes of material nature and expand beyond into the transcendental realm of the holy names of God. So the holy names of God are capable. They're capable of delivering one. And they have all the potency of God. And we have to have full faith that when we chant the holy names of the Lord, sincerely, not in a business relationship, not in a relationship like we're talking about where you're premeditating something going, yeah, I'm going to use God for this one too. See, everybody needs a scapegoat. Everybody's looking for a scapegoat. And much of our religion, we find that people are looking for martyrs, someone who will die on their behalf. And they feel that that vindicates them in some way. And so in some religions, they feel like somebody else died for me. I don't have to worry about living in a religious lifestyle. It's already been taken care of for me. All I have to do is believe on that. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to follow anything. That would be incorrect. That would be incorrect. Even Jesus Christ, who gave his life for all those people, said, follow me. Follow me. Take up your cross and follow me. In other words, do what I do. Live like I live. Don't just give me lip service. Who needs lip service? Right? What do you get out of that? Nothing. Love is an action. Love is an action. Not somebody over a rattle, I love you, love you, love you, love you, love you. What is that? What's that? Do something. Let's see what you can do. What can you do for Krishna? So Prabhupada, and I'll leave you with this unless you have other questions. Prabhupada said that the way to approach Krishna is as follows. Please listen carefully. Prabhupada said, when you go to Krishna, you explain to Krishna in a sincere way, Lord, I am useless. I have nothing to offer you. I am useless creature. I have no value. But because the spiritual master has come and given me this service, please take whatever little thing I can offer. Whatever little thing that I can offer, please accept that. And please don't kick me away. I know I'm not qualified. You know, my friend Chandrasekhar, I wish I had these 3 pages. He wrote this. We were talking about this idea, okay, because Prabhupada had said this and we were discussing it. He wrote 3 pages, and in those pages, he had the most wonderful things. Maybe I'll read it to you the next time. I'll get a little excerpt from this. You know, it goes on like, I have no desire to chant the holy name. I am a useless nonsense rascal. I'm not interested in serving Krishna. I don't listen to the spiritual master. I don't absorb the information that's coming. I have no love of Godhead. He goes on and on and on, 3 pages of this. But at the end, he says, but whatever I can do, whatever little service I can do, please accept it. It's all that I have, and I offer it to you. So if we do like that, and we realize that we're not qualified, Srila Prabhupada is qualified. As a matter of fact, one prayer that I heard a devotee say is that when he offers his food, and he's offering the nice prayers, you know, Namo Mahabharanaya, Krishna Prem Pradayate, and all the prayers that we offer for offering prasad. He says, I am not qualified to even make an offering. Everything I touch is polluted. I am a nonsense rascal, lowest among mankind. But my spiritual master has love for you. Somehow or another, my spiritual master has given me an opportunity to engage in some service. So this offering that I'm giving you, I'm offering it to you through my spiritual master so that you might relish it. And in so doing, I might take the remnants of prasadam that was offered in that way. Isn't that a nice thought when you think about that? So that's how we have to see things. We are not qualified. Our spiritual master is qualified. If we're not for him, we would have no hope, right? Hope against hope. So nice chapter, great day, Balaram's appearance day. I was going to just do Balaram. I got a whole thing on Balaram here I could lay on you, but it'd probably take an hour to do it. We better not do it tonight. But I hope everybody had a wonderful Balaram appearance day. And tomorrow, Prabhupada gets on Jaladuta and heads to the USA, y'all. Did you know that? Did you know that tomorrow is the day where Prabhupada left to come to the USA to save us rascals? So very auspicious times. And then on Sunday this week will be Janmashtami, the appearance of Lord Krishna. And then the day after that, the appearance of Srila Prabhupada. So these are the happiest times of our life. And we're reminded by their activities and by these stories what our true purpose in life is. And that is to pray unceasingly, hallowed be thy name. That's to chant the holy names from the rising to the setting of the sun. Chant in your sleep. Chant anyway. No matter what, you may be filled with all nonsense desire. Maybe you want a son. Chant anyway. Right? So that's our thought for the day, y'all. I hope everybody has enjoyed this class tonight. Tomorrow next Monday, it gets really good. Because keep in mind, Narada and Angira, they're there. They're bedside right now. They're getting ready to instruct Citraketu and his wife. What's up? Let me just put it to you this way. There's going to be some raising from the dead going on. Now, if you want to be involved, you got to come back for next week's installment. And don't forget, next Monday is Prabhupada's appearance day, so it's Vyasa Puja day. And we'll have this class that evening. So it's very auspicious for us to be doing this on this day and next week as well. So is there any other comment or questions that anybody wants to add? Because I think we're at about our limit of time, if I'm not mistaken. Right? What time is it? I can't even see.
8:09.
8:09. Okay. Well, I think we're there. So anybody got anything they want to add before we end the class? If not, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to stop this recording. And thank you so much for being here. And I hope everybody has a very blissful, prosperous week and a glorious Janmashtami. Oh, this next Saturday, we're opening the Morning Star House in Nashville, which will be a new Bhakti Center. Ekachakra Pran, one of my students who stayed with me in a couple of years, has bought this house and is opening it for the sake of kirtan and propagation of this kind of information. So we have now a new center in Nashville. And I just met today with the other folks that opened a new Bhakti Center in Nashville, Cindy and Steve. They're taking their initiation from one of Radhanath's disciples. I think Ranganath has given him initiation, if I'm not mistaken. But that's next Saturday too. So we got a lot of very auspicious things going on in Nashville. And we're working on some other projects that we'll announce as we go along. They're very auspicious, very hopeful. So thanks everybody for being here with us. Appreciate you very, very much. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. And we'll finish the story of Citraketu. Maybe we'll finish it next week. That'll be the end of the 6th canto. And we're halfway through the Srimad Bhagavatam, y'all. That's pretty amazing. Thanks for hanging in there with us. You guys are stalwart souls. Except my
Hare
base.
Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai for
Hare Krishna.
Very, very nice. Thank you. I'll look forward
Thank
to
you.
next week, okay?
Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Bol.
Very well.
Hari Bol.